As California breaks coronavirus case numbers, the governor rolling back reopenings across the state, and those restrictions return and cases spike. Hearing from the San Diego sheriff about how his department is approaching enforcement, particularly ahead of the holiday weekend. And the new agreement that could pave the way for regulations on short-term rentals in San Diego. ABC 10 News at 11 starts now. And welcome to ABC 10 News at 11. I'm Jim Patton, and I am joined remotely by my co-anchor, Virginia Cha. We're going to hear from her in just a moment, as well as meteorologist Megan Perry. Great to see you, Virginia. We'll talk to you very shortly. Well, we start with the latest on the pandemic, when we are still seeing a rise in positive cases across California. Governor Newsom now taking action, putting nearly 24 counties on a watch list and rolling back reopenings across the state. Counties on that list forced to put a hold on indoor dining, close museums and other attractions. San Diego's not yet on that list, but with cases on the rise here, local businesses are preparing to close again. County officials say San Diego is on track to join the state's watch list by Friday. At this point, they don't believe the numbers will drop, and based on chart numbers, it could trigger restrictions on Monday. Neighboring counties have already been ordered to shut down various indoor venues. Some local business owners are getting ready for that possibility. Well, the county has already closed bars and breweries that don't serve food. And with the return of some of those restrictions and a close eye being kept on the number of daily cases, new questions being raised about how at all this can be enforced. Now, joining us now to talk about that balance between education and enforcement, San Diego Sheriff Bill Gore. Sheriff, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. Good to be on.
So, as you know, LA and Ventura counties have closed their beaches. We are expecting some monster crowds here as people come from those areas to San Diego. What are your priorities heading into this holiday weekend?
Well, obviously we have any holiday weekend is busy with driving issues and too much partying, but also it's kind of exacerbated this year with COVID-19. We'll be out on a normal patrol enforcement stance, and again, like we've done for the last 4 months, try to work with the public to talk about education and try to get voluntary compliance. Obviously, there's been some changes in the last couple of days as it pertains to bars and restaurants staying open past 10 o'clock. If you saw yesterday in the governor's press conference, he talked about state regulatory teams that will be in different regions. We'll be working with that team here, which part of it's alcohol beverage control, and our county regulatory agencies. We can do enforcement if we don't get that voluntary compliance that we're seeking.
We know that there were fines that were given out not just by the Sheriff's Department, by San Diego Police back in April for those that had crossed boundaries where it had been closed off. If you couldn't go in a particular park or the beach had been closed off and people violated that. In terms of enforcement now, with everything that's open, what would you be enforcing?
Well, I think we're looking at the changes, like I say, in the public health order that talks about bars not being open. We're still going to be looking at the masks, the social distancing, the parties, house parties, if you will, with people other than your family members that are technically in violation of the public health order. We're just asking people to be responsible. We don't want to be Big Brother. What we're trying to do here is educate the public so that ultimately we can save lives. We can keep that surge out of our emergency rooms and our hospitals. And all the scientific evidence from around the world indicates that the social distancing and the wearing of masks works in spreading and stopping the spread of this virus. So we're just asking people to use good common sense, follow the good science that's been developed. And I think, especially in the last week, we've had agreement really all the way up to and including the Office of the President on wearing masks. So let's get out there and show, like we have last 4 months, that San Diego cares about its neighbors, its family members, keeping other people safe, and by wearing a mask and really complying with the social distancing.
And you talk about using common sense, and that sounds like a great idea. I wonder, though, it seems difficult, like in a beach setting where you have crowds that are maintaining social distance most of the time, but then because they are crowds, that will not happen sometimes. How do you enforce that, or how closely would you try to enforce that with people wearing masks?
Well, again, if you have 1,000 people on the beach and outdoors, I think if you can socially distance, the mask is less important than it is in a closed environment inside of a restaurant, for example. So we're not going to be able to go out and look at every individual at every beach in San Diego County. We'll have our teams out there. We'll be educating them on the importance of the social distancing, how important it is to wear the mask, at least have one on you if you have to go into a closed environment. And ask them to use good common sense and protect their neighbors and their other family members.
And I do want to get in one last question that I promised to get in for an associate. Will you have teams actually on the beaches in some areas that will be looking for people to be social distancing and wearing masks, actually with the lifeguards there on the beaches?
Well, we have our normal patrols in our coastal towns that we police for that will be there. We're not planning on adding enforcement details to be specifically walking on the beaches to look at who's wearing a face mask, who's socially distanced or not. But we will be there should there, I think, be egregious examples of large parties that are not complying with either one of those guidelines. And we would go up and try to educate them and get voluntary compliance.
Sheriff
And
Bill,
if we don't, depending on the response we get, obviously there's a lot of discretion involved in this. Depending on the response we get, citations could be a possibility.
Sheriff Bill Gore, thank you so much for your time.
Okay, Jim, thanks.
Virginia?
Thank you, Jim. Well, today we are getting a new look at unemployment numbers across the country. And for another week, filings have declined. So another 1.43 million Americans filed for help. But that is down from about 1.5 million people the week before. That is the 12th straight week of decline. Now, experts are also closely monitoring the number of continuing claims, which are usually a week behind. Reports show those claims totaled more than 19 million in the week ending June 20th. The good news here, the unemployment rate fell to 11.1% as the country added a record 4.8 million jobs in the month of June. Meanwhile, here in San Diego, unemployment is still higher than the national average. A SANDAG report just out this morning shows the county at 14.8% unemployment. ABC 10 News reporter Jared Aarons joining us live now. Jared, local economists are saying that things will probably get worse again before they get better.
Yeah, Virginia, the biggest fear is that if we have to put those restrictions back in place, more businesses will have to close again and lay off people again, and some of those businesses this time may not reopen.
Many of these businesses have been waiting to open up again. They haven't made any revenue for the last couple of months. They were open for about 19 days, and now you're telling them they have to shut down again. Some of them are not going to be able to make it.
We've got
Here's
to
the good
open
news.
up
According to
airports. We've got
SANDAG's
to
report,
open our convention center. All of them.
here's the good news. According to SANDAG's report, unemployment fell for the 6th straight week, down from a high of 25% back in May. But right now at 14.8, that's still higher than even the worst time during the recession in 2008. 200,000 San Diegans are out of work right now because of the coronavirus, and the threat of renewed restrictions has experts worried that an on-again, off-again type of recovery will keep customers away. Phil Blair, who's the head of Manpower, which helps businesses find temporary employees, says he thinks the most important industry that needs to reopen in San Diego to help with unemployment is tourism.
We've got to open up airports. We've got to open our convention center. All of us have to be comfortable flying, and then flying to a big room with 5, 8, 10, 12,000 people.
Now, here's the thing, even when that happens, the people I spoke with this morning told me they still don't ever see unemployment getting back down to the record lows we had at the beginning of the year. They say San Diego's new normal could be somewhere around 5%. Live at the Embarcadero, Jared Aarons, ABC 10 News.
Jared, thank you very much. Big compromise between the city's hospitality union and the short-term rental organization could signal an end to the city's long battle over the use of Airbnbs in community neighborhoods. ABC 10 News reporter Marie Cornell has more on the deal.
The discussion about where short-term rentals fit in San Diego neighborhoods isn't new to City Hall, but what's different now is a compromise that some hope will finally answer all of these questions. In a news conference, Councilmember Jennifer Campbell announced a compromise between Unite Here, which represents more than 6,000 local hotel, gaming, and hospitality workers, and Expedia Group, which is the parent company for short-term rental brands. Both sides have agreed on rules that Councilmember Campbell says could help regulate the short-term rental industry by providing a balance between the hospitality industry and preserving the right of homeowners to use their property to help make ends meet. Under this agreement, it would cap the number of short-term rental permits that were granted, also establishing a 2-night minimum stay. In turn, residents will be allowed to home share, and those who rent out their homes part-time, usually during big events like Comic-Con, Pride, or December nights, wouldn't have to pay the full permit costs. There will also be strict enforcement of the Good Neighbor policy, which would include fines for those who violate it and possibly having permits revoked for repeat violations. This plan will be sent to the City Council for review. From Mission Bay, Marie Cornell, ABC 10 News.
Well, local high school students are leading a protest calling for defunding the San Diego Unified School District Police Department. Now, these groups argue police groups create a toxic school climate. Federal data from 2015 shows Black and Hispanic students made up 66% of arrests, even though they only made up 56% of the school population. The group Defund School Police San Diego says the district should instead use that money on more support services. The march begins today at noon at the district headquarters in University Heights.